Thank you so much, Guido. Thank you to CAF and the Small Farms Conference for providing this space for conversation. Some of us have been together all day, from our market manager training this morning into our direct marketing session preceding this session. And we have one more session related to farmers markets coming up after this, which is our California Nutrition Incentive Program and Market Match advocacy campaign. So if you're interested in that topic, we hope to see you again later this afternoon. We have a group of us from the California Alliance of Farmers Markets that have come together to host this roundtable. I want to give folks a chance to get settled in and orient yourselves to the group. It looks like we have a manageable size group. And I'll tell you a tiny bit of history of the conference and this roundtable, and then I'm going to introduce Aaron to maybe just give you a couple words about the history of how the roundtable has evolved over the years. But this is meant to be a very interactive conversation. So if you're here to just listen, that's absolutely okay too. But at least some of you will need to talk with us because that's what we came here to do. So if you can prepare yourselves for that piece, that would be awesome. Listening in is absolutely acceptable, and we're glad you're here too. But we hope some of us can share our voices today and come on screen, and we'll probably do a breakout. So this conference used to take place in person, and the Market Manager Roundtable has always been a very safe and inclusive space for market managers to talk to each other about just about anything. And so we kept the design of today's session very casual so that we can give space to hear from you. We got to pick what other sessions we wanted to focus topics on. So now is your chance to decide what you'd like to talk about. And those of us who are here today obviously are here to talk about farmers markets. For those who don't know, the California Alliance of Farmers Markets is a industry group. We are housed under the Berkeley Ecology Center, but we are organized through a steering committee of independent market operators. Our main goal for today is that we come away knowing each other a little bit better, and then we can continue these conversations. But I wanted to introduce you to Aaron Tormey, who is the Coastside Farmers Market founder and also a farmer on the Central Coast. And Aaron's going to help in leadership today. And I thought, Aaron, you could just give us a couple words about why we do this roundtable, how it's been useful in the past, and how it's been important for you as a farmer and as a market operator and one of the founders of the California Alliance of Farmers Market.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm glad you're here to join us this afternoon on the part of the conference that, for me, as a beginning farmer and a person that just started a farmer's market, the first thing I did was go to a California Small Farm Conference. I think it was in Visalia. I was kind of overwhelmed with the huge amount of information, having to make choices about what session I went to, whether I go as a farmer and a vendor trying to do a better job of marketing my products, or should I go and figure out how to deal with the policies or the rules and regulations that were kind of coming out at me from all corners. And I just found this really great convivial group of knowledgeable people who are also all kind of helping to co-create what is now the California Certified Farmers Market world, which is a very different one than it was. We're going in this year to my 25th season at our market in Half Moon Bay. What I know now is real different from what I know then. And one of the things that I've learned is there's a huge difference between attending this conference as a third-party operator, attending this conference as a person who works with an organization that directly manages farmers markets, but a lot of them. It's a huge difference between the kinds of concerns you have when you're operating in a rural market like one of mine and a more suburban or closer to an urban market location like my second market. And so, or deeply urban locations, which I know nothing about. So we're just really excited to talk to everyone today and find out what it is throughout the sessions that you attended this morning. Where were the gaps? Where were the question marks? Where were the ideas?
Out of curiosity,
the little
do you
fleshing out. Simba, you need to, well, there we go. So we're really excited today to just find out really who's in the room and what you want to know and how we can help guide you to that information, advice, or bit of detail that might have gone missing this morning. So thank you. And then I'm going to let Catherine, who's our other co-host, take it from here.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. I see lots of familiar faces from our market manager training this morning. So thanks everyone for sticking it through the whole day with us here. I am Catherine Nunes-Siciliani. I work for the same association that Portia does, the North Coast Growers Association in Humboldt County. I'm our farmers market director, and we operate 9 farmers markets in Humboldt County. I'm joining as one of the facilitators of this roundtable for the first time this year, but I have attended the roundtables in the past, and I found them really valuable sessions to just really share knowledge between each other. We all have such a breadth of knowledge across the state that it's really valuable to kind of take the time to ask questions in this space. We're here to support in a lot of ways. So I just wanted to share a few of my just like special interests too related to farmers markets. I support all of our food access programs. So I've been one of the admin folks for the CNIP expansion, and I help operate our CalFresh and Market Match programs. And so, if there's any questions related to those things in particular, I that's really a big part of my role with our association. And I've dabbled in a lot. I've played a lot of roles from like market assistant to intern to volunteer. I've worked with our merchandise and our marketing and our food access. As you all know, we all wear lots of hats, as I talked about earlier in the manager training. So I'm always happy to take any kind of random questions from the nitty-gritty to like the bigger picture stuff. I have fun sharing that knowledge. So feel free to reach out even after the session if you have any questions. And I'll pass it back to Portia.
Yeah, I think it'd be great if we introduce, we don't have time for everybody to introduce out loud, but I wanted to introduce Catherine, who works very closely with me, and then the other folks on the Alliance Steering Committee. So we have Kara May, and I think we have maybe 1 or 2 other steering committee members in the room. So Kara May, if you want to say hi, and then other steering committee members, feel free to raise your hand so we see you. But go ahead, Kara May.
Hi, folks. I'm Kara May Woolidge. My pronouns are she, her. I am the executive director of Napa Farmers Market. We are a single market in Napa, California, which is on the Onisati, Patwin, and Miwok lands. And I'm low-key playing like tech host right now, and not gonna lie, like my brain's a little fried. So I'm just here for the vibes, and I really encourage you to speak up and share because this is a unique opportunity for us to all talk about the work that we do. We don't always get to do that together.
Love that, Kara May. We are all here for the vibes, and you bring the vibes everywhere you go. So thank you for being you and being here. Um, yeah, and then we have Bridget on the call, and Alan, Bridget Myers and Alan Moy are also steering committee members. If you want to say hi or just wave at everyone, you're welcome to do that. Awesome. Yeah, it looks like we have market managers from around the state. So thanks for putting your details in the chat so we can kind of see who's here. Please welcome everybody to do that. There's Bridget. Hi, Bridget. Thank you for being here. Yeah, we're all market managers. As we discussed this morning, wear many hats. So we're always running around doing different stuff. And the fact that this many people have made this much time today, we hope to make this a valuable time commitment for you all today. And yeah, Jackie's here. Awesome. So this is great. So we wanted to have kind of a casual conversation to start us off and then narrow down some topics and do some breakout rooms so we can have a little bit of a smaller conversation on some focused topics, and we'll see how that works. So if you want to just take a minute and think to yourself, what is a topic that comes to mind that you'd most like to use this time for? This is purposeful that we're asking your opinion and not trying to direct you automatically into a breakout group that we have predetermined, but we're very ready with Guido's help to quickly break out when the time comes. But we wanted to do some organizing together to say, what topics do you want to talk about? So that could be something like, I want to talk about bookkeeping and operations. I want to talk about vendors. I want to talk about political protesting at my market. I want to talk about ICE raids. I'm scared. I want a safe space to have a conversation. Things like that. So feel free to take a minute, take a deep breath, think about things you might want to engage with today, and put them in the chat. That would be awesome. And we could also, while we're thinking, thumbs up, thumbs down if we want breakout sessions. Do we like the big group conversation, or do folks want to get into breakout rooms? Yeah. Okay, awesome. EBT for the market. Guy, thank you. That is very specific, and that is something that we have a tool to help with. So the Berkeley Ecology Center has created a farmers market toolkit, an EBT toolkit, to make it really easy to learn as a market operator how to establish yourself as an authorized, SNAP authorized retailer. There's a very specific allowance for certified farmers markets to become SNAP authorized retailers. So we can grab that link from the Ecology Center website and throw it in the chat for you, and that will give you a great starting place. The big group versus breakouts. Yeah. Cool. So yeah, we could start there. Other thoughts? Any issues you're dealing with? Okay. Throwing that link in the chat for the Ecology Center's Farmers Market EBT program. There's kind of a quick guide of how to get started. And there's a little bit of staff time available to help you walk through that. The process can seem daunting because it's a USDA, application you have to figure out. There's some nuances to doing that to make it easy on yourselves, and it's truly not that hard to get set up. And California still has some provisions that allow for free terminals to be sent to market operators so that you can run the EBT through that terminal. Cool. Okay. Organics questions. Great. Talking about customer accounts. Great. So one clarifying question. So is it Elrican? If you are talking about as a farmer vendor, how to become an organic farmer, is that the question? Just for clarity. Volunteers. Okay. There's quite a few topics, but it seems like we have a lot of variation in topics. Should we just take them one by one and do it in big groups since we have for now? Yeah. Okay.
Let's all stay together.
Cool. We didn't know how many people we'd have, so we're prepared for either scenario.
Yeah, I think 27 doesn't seem like too many to have a big group discussion. Maybe we could just take it like topic by topic in order of the chat and just kind of speak to some of these topics.
Great.
And if people are really crazy, they can come on camera, right?
Oh yeah. I know it's the end of the day and
I'm in my bedroom.
But we all got smiling faces here. We're all tired together.
Yeah.
Is there anyone, I guess, from any other associations who want to speak to maybe their experiences with setting up EBT, any like challenges you went through, anything like that? I'll just speak to, we're about to reauthorize for one of our farmers markets. So when you get set up to take CalFresh EBT, you have to reauthorize every 3 to 5 years or so. And so, yeah, doing that for one of our markets now. So there's some paperwork involved, but the Ecology Center makes it really accessible.
Yeah, I think the biggest hurdle when first starting with EBT is deciding what type of script you're going to use, what type of currency you're going to create to represent that SNAP dollars, those SNAP dollars that are going to be sent at your markets. That's something that the quick guide kind of walks you through how to do that, some resources, where you can order those from, and what the different types of like allowable script are. It's usually either a token or a paper voucher.
Yeah, paper vouchers can be more accessible if you're just starting out and maybe you want to do a pilot program of a CalFresh EBT program because you can just either print those yourself or get them printed through your local printer. We used to use wooden tokens and then transition to metal once our redemption rates got really high. And so we were able to use like an automatic token counter, all that kind of stuff. Happy to chat more about that as well.
And we opted in our markets to do, which are two, right now there's just two, it used to be five, but they're medium-sized markets. And we found that PaperScript just worked a whole lot better in a whole lot of different ways, not the least of which is far less of a kind of a call out on customers that were using something that looked very much like we have market money that people just write us a check for, or that regular shoppers that decide that they're just gonna buy $100 worth of market money, and it just looks a little bit different than the script that we use for our um, our EBT and our market match and some of the other programs. So all of ours, we transitioned out of token scripts a number of years ago to accommodate that. It's much easier for people to hang on to it as well. And for us, we did this sort of color coded thing where all the cash equivalents, like our EBT script, are green. We have a program called Local Match that's locally funded that works very much like Market Match, but it's only available for our, people within our local zip code, excuse me. But the cash equivalent, they give us a $10 bill. We give them $10 of script that's a cash equivalent and $10 that's a match equivalent. So our EBT script is green, our market match script is red. Our local match script is a different shade of green, and the match script is a different shade of red. And because the market match is restricted to fresh fruits and vegetables only, our local match program works very much the same. So our whole thing is with all of our vendors in the market, green, you're good to go, red, stop and think. And it has really helped us a lot to do it that way. And like I said, we have script that's available that we give for gift certificates and things like that. So anybody in the market could have a script, and it doesn't necessarily mean there's somebody who's a CalFresh customer or a VeggieRx customer or a WIC customer. They're just a customer in the market that's paying with something as different as Apple Pay or whatever the hell else. But that color code thing has really helped us quite a lot.
Mhm. Yeah, and I just kind of want to build on what Erin said too. Like everyone's welcome at the market. These programs are helping increase access to that. But what also helps increase the inclusivity around that if you're launching CalFresh EBT is really making sure your vendors understand the transition and really communicating with your farmers what they can and can't take. That like it seems like it would be really straightforward, but when our farmers don't understand the script or what they take, they can accidentally turn customers away. And for folks who maybe are already have a hard time accessing things like farmers markets, that can feel really personal from some of our customers. So I would just say, as you embark on this process, really think about ways that you'll go about educating the vendors as well. And we have tools for that too. If you are ever interested, we could share some of the resources we have.
I love the questions about how to attract volunteers. I think that's something that folks could speak to. And then what do we do in the specific case that happens far too often where a vendor doesn't show up and we have to rearrange the market layout? So I was hoping folks could maybe speak to those two different topics that were raised in the chat. How do we attract volunteers? How do we train them? How do we use their time well and make it meaningful for them and useful for the market? How have you been successful doing that? And then we can talk about how to fill those spaces when we have no show, no calls.
Hmm.
Anyone can jump in. I know Catherine runs our volunteer program, but if other folks want to share too, but Catherine, you could start.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, I was waiting to see if anyone else wanted to jump in. But yeah, for volunteers, it's certainly hit or miss depending on how desirable things are. I think it's really about the messaging. oops, excuse me, and the frequency of it. We just have an ongoing volunteer form on our website. So we have like a jobs opportunities volunteer, and we just have like a standing Google form that I'm just like always taking volunteer applications, and then those go into like a volunteer database where when in the height of the season when things are busy, I basically send out like monthly volunteer outreach emails. I ask our staff what are their specific volunteer opportunities and their hours, and then that just goes out to that list. So really, we don't have to necessarily do concentrated volunteer campaigns because we're just always gathering that data. And that's been one of the most helpful things for us. Also, just seeing if any of your local agencies have intern programs. We benefit from the College Corps program up here, like college students who go through College Corps. And so we've been able to partner with them as a nonprofit agency. And so we have been able to get College Corps fellows for the past few years. And that's really, really helped with our market operations and lots of different things. So those are just two kind of key things I would recommend that have worked for us.
Something that's worked for us. It doesn't work in all circumstances, and I'm betting there'll be some audible rolling of eyeballs, but in our circumstances, working with our local high schools and their community service hours, it's been really helpful for certain things in the market, right? Most of these youngsters are going to be under the age of 18, so there's a number of things that you can't have them do. I think somebody had up there, I think it was Guy helping with parking and things like that. Obviously, you don't want a kid doing that, but if you're a market that takes attendance, uses clickers, putting them somewhere for that kind of activity is really valuable. Having somebody that's just staffing, if you have a basic community outreach table, we provide like bubble machines and chalk for kids to just like make a mess on the parking lot ground every day, and having someone that's there to do that kind of thing is those resources have been really helpful. Like Catherine, working through like the college, there's similar programs in some of the community colleges as well, and in some of the extension schools. But for those sorts of things where you're just needing somebody to help you put up signs in the market or put up tents for vendors or help keep the thing clean, they're not great for using for like booth relief if you provide like booth relief for bio breaks or and you can't have them operating your EBT if they're under 18 and they haven't been like dealt with. But it's a nice resource for some of those um, important but challenging projects. For us, just the whole business of knowing that there's two people every.
Oh, I think you froze, Erin. We'll see if we get her
I
back.
was up for a
The
minute.
problem
Yeah.
is once their hours are up, sometimes they're out of there. But it's not a difficult thing to retrain a new group on.
Mhm.
Awesome. Thank you, Erin. Other folks want to talk about volunteers? Or we can switch to the how do we fill that space when someone doesn't show up and we're on the fly? At our markets, we're mostly in city streets. So there's a lot of setup that goes into it and a lot of chalk. Use a lot of chalk. So we're literally out there drawing the spaces like most of you are. Some markets have kind of just really set spaces and it's super obvious or they're in the grass. But how many of you use chalk to chalk out your spaces for your markets? Yeah. Feel free to do like a thumbs up or raise your hand in the chat if you have markets where you use chalk. I really want to know what y'all do that don't use chalk. Like, how does that
Yeah.
work? Is it because you're in the grass? Do people just know where to go? Some of our small
Actually,
markets,
in
yeah.
in Napa, where we're located, there's a city regulation that you cannot use chalk because it goes into the river. So,
Mm.
but we are set in a parking lot, and what we actually did is we got some pavement tape and
Mm.
measured out the spaces to set so that, and it actually works really great because it pretty much sticks the whole time, and it means that if it rains, we don't have to go out and rechalk the spaces.
Wow,
That's
that's
so
very.
smart. I have never considered this, like
Please
for
share
me
the
based
exact
in
product.
Humboldt County. Yeah, can you send that to me, Kara?
I'll try to find it. Don't judge my Amazon purchases. Amazon is an unnecessary. You can't avoid it.
Well, that's so helpful
Yeah,
because
or
there
so.
are times when it's like pouring rain and it happens after we've already chalked spaces. And so on those days when it's just like horrendous, it would be really helpful to have a different resource for our managers to use.
Yeah, there have been times in the rain in the dark where I just stood there, just waited as they arrived, just
Yep.
right about here, right there. Just put this there. Yeah, I'm sure we all have parking spaces that can be convenient in a parking lot. Yeah, to just use those existing lines.
We
Mhm.
use pavement tape too, because in Pacifica, similar kind of thing. Don't use chalk, but we just do the lines up the side, up the cur from the street up the sidewalk curb, not across or any, they're just like they end up just looking like little stripes. And we use 1 inch reflective white. So even if it's you happen to be in a red zone or something like that, it's just these little stripes that are up every 10 feet or so. And of course, you got to leave a little wiggle room for them, but we
Mhm.
it's been a really great way to do it, and it doesn't upset the community, and we don't have them numbered or anything like that. It's very innocuous, but it's very effective. Works really well.
That's great.
I
Um,
love this.
Yeah.
Good.
I wanted to kind of speak specifically to like how do you pivot when people don't show up? It really kind of depends on your familiarity with the space that your farmers need. Like if I got a call, if I've already chalked spaces, let's say scenario, I've chalked spaces and then someone calls out, but I've already chalked their space. Maybe there's a vendor I know who I typically have offload, but would love to keep their vehicle. For us, we have systems where some of our farmers keep their vehicle and they just set up in front of their truck with tables and things like that. So in that situation, I would just kind of think on the fly, like, oh, hey, Jay, you can keep your truck today. This person didn't show up. You can take up a little bit of extra space. And to me, I'm not too concerned about the perception from our other farmers because they kind of understand that it all sort of comes back around. Like one day they might be able to benefit from that same thing if their neighbor didn't show up. So you can just kind of make real-time adjustments. I let people know like, hey, if you're feeling really cramped, this person didn't show up, feel free to just like take up some space and like just spread out a little bit. And that's usually my go-to method, which is pretty straightforward. Um, if anyone has any other tips you want to speak to about spacing, otherwise we can jump into one of these other topics. We have stuff about customer counts, dealing with street vendors, rogue vendors, and ICE. So lots of topics at hand.
Yeah, Lauren and team at the Ecology Center, when you say increase customer counts, do you mean increase foot traffic or actually count them more easily?
Oh, yeah, we're talking about foot traffic.
Awesome.
Mhm.
Yeah. Do you want to expand on the question or just
Oh,
what tools do you already use to increase foot traffic? And we can build off of them.
yeah. Well, that's part of the reason why we're presenting it to the table is that we're in a position where we're starting to see our customer counts decline, and we are already in the habit of like doing a certain amount of advertising, doing a certain number of events per year. Uh, we have a decent social media presence. Our website gets a C plus in my view when it comes to web traffic. So I'm curious for the whole group, like what have you encountered a moment when you've seen your customer count start to decline and you were able to take a corrective action? And if so, what was that corrective action?
I love that question. For us, we've often seen, customers decline and vendor attendance decline. It's usually more factor of vendor attendance. So it's interesting to think about, if your vendors are there, they've got the product. I know Catherine really helped us rebuild one of our smallest markets and employed a lot of like special events, kind of one-off like fun opportunities to get people excited and to create reasons to do extra media. So that's one idea. Catherine, if you want to speak to that or anyone else wants to share your ideas for getting people to your markets and increasing foot traffic and reasons why you might see some decline.
Yeah, at our market, I took over management of the our Old Town Farmers Market. I think 4 years ago. This will be my fifth season. So yeah, it was really small and tiny. At that time, I had just decided to invite a lot more non-ag vendors. The previous manager before me really didn't like do a lot of like extra outreach for vendors, but we had a lot of up and coming vendors who were super interested. That was a market that was struggling with vendor attendance and customer attendance. I'm gonna go ahead and mute this person. So yeah, it really it depends. It's hard. That market still struggles with foot traffic a bit, to be completely honest, because it's just really local, like dependent on a lot of workers in that area. I think you were in the site, you heard me kind of speak to that in this earlier session. So, I did partner with some of like our local artist kind of groups, and I think that first year I did a fun like variety show, and that I got a lot of feedback that was like, "Oh wow, I've like never come out to the farmers market before. This was fun." And I through that I was able to reach like some different demographics. And so we kind of always say it, but it is like thinking outside the box. Is there anyone who's down to collaborate with your market who you might not think initially is a good fit, but can you just give it a try, especially if folks are the time of day really matters too. Like we're a daytime market, so we kind of struggle with some of those collaborations, but there's a lot of other nonprofits who probably have really good ideas. And other agencies like small nonprofits are more willing to kind of, I think, take that risk and just see if something works also. So I don't know. That's one of my first recommendations, I think.
Yeah, totally. That makes sense. Really appreciate the part about trying to partner with other nonprofits because, I mean, nonprofit to nonprofit, the struggle, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. We've considered also doing outreach fairs. So something I think we're going to try to do this season at one of our markets is that we typically partner with the blood bank at one of our markets, at one of my markets. And so we were thinking at one of our bigger markets, inviting the blood bank, inviting some like CalFresh specialists to come out, inviting folks from the WIC office, like inviting a lot of our different agencies to all come table and do outreach on the same day at our farmers market. And then we're reaching like those demographics also. And then, we're meeting some of our like grant requirements through all of our food access programs by increasing outreach in those ways too. So, think about collaborations that you already have that you might be able to leverage as well.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And I think it would follow on that. And one of the things that really helped our markets, particularly the one in Pacifica, get more firmly rooted in the community is that we made a decision to every week of every market supply a tent, table, the equipment. We put it up for, they have to, sign up for it. It's not like it's just free and there's no skin in the game from the other side. But with our local community serving nonprofits and CBOs, to be at the market, like in the actual market. They're limited to just doing it twice a year, but it's brought people from everybody from the Rotary Club to our local officials to all these different community serving organizations to the market for a day or two, and they just meet people and talk about their programs or promote upcoming fundraisers that they're doing or offer services. One of the things I have to tell you, this is a little bit off topic, but not exactly. One of the most greatest things that we started doing about 6 years ago was partnering with Canine Companions, who are the people who train service dogs for folks. So they come twice a year. We put them right by the entrance of the market. They bring service dogs. They have been nothing but really helpful in terms of just one, explaining to our community why on a Saturday morning we're such hard asses about people calling their emotional support dogs and every other dog. I mean, basically every pet there ever was is an emotional support dog in one way or the other, but they don't belong in a farmer's market. And so that partnership with Canine Companion has done us this like amazing service. And it has also helped a lot for us to just like stay with that commitment. We lose a little revenue and it takes a little extra time and we gotta, keep an extra table and tent in good order and ready. But it's been one of the best investments we've ever made. And it also helps a lot when you have those situations where you've got no shows and things like that, because we just put our community booth in that hole and we're done for the day. And so I kind of like on both sides of the coin, like just figuring out who in your general neighborhood and in your community is also looking to support a better, more cohesive and better resource community and make those offers. It's worked really well for us. And uh, yeah.
Yeah, so the takeaway that I'm getting from both Aaron and Catherine is leaning toward like, hey, partner with other people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We all do better when we all do better.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's
Well said.
Yeah, leaning on like the businesses in the location nearby, leaning on city councils for support. Chambers of commerce are extremely beneficial and helpful. So getting involved with those kinds of community groups, you can meet other business leaders who maybe even want to donate or become, a sponsor, but also can share ideas and bring energy for those kinds of events and partnership.
So,
Great topic.
so one last follow-up question, if that's okay. So, we talked about kind of bringing in other orgs to partner with us, kind of utilizing our space as the site for that partnership. I'm curious, has anybody had any success with kind of the reverse? Like, has anybody here gone tabling for their farmers market? Or like, what does networking in that sense look like?
Yeah, I'll speak to that a little bit, but if anyone else wants to share, I really welcome it. Not necessarily tabling, but it's adjacent. We have really expanded our nutrition education program the last couple of years, and we have an on-staff chef, James, who's great. He was one of our market managers as well, and he has started to organize cooking classes with the senior centers, and we're going to organize one with our local WIC office in partnership with them. And so that has been really wonderful because he's just like a direct invitation to the farmers markets and going to folks and like really teaching them how to use that produce. And so that has been really great. I understand we're pretty fortunate in that way. Not everyone has access to that, but if you're able to, even just like sampling, if you're able to even bring things that are pretty accessible to different places, that works out really well. And then last year, I think it was in the fall, I also collaborated with Cal Poly Humboldt, and we have like an annual campus dialogue on race, and they invited me to participate in a session, and we did a really great just session on inclusivity in our community and how community spaces are really kind of key to some of these things and how students feel. And so that was really great to be included in that. And so if there are ways that we can think uniquely about how our topic of farmers markets is being included in conversations that other people are already having and get ourselves in those rooms, that's been really valuable for us too.
And that's gold. Thank you.
And Lauren, I also want to kind of call out Saoirse Scott put in the chat a really great idea with the $5 in kids bucks to and getting kids down there. And Saoirse, if you want to talk a little bit more about that, we've done similar things, but it'd be great to hear from somebody other than me about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. The idea is really just getting more people at the market without cost being a barrier to participation. And because this wasn't an income restricted program, we were able to get families from, a lot of different income backgrounds to start making the habit like a part of their natural routine. And I think especially with families, if they have multiple kids or, like cousins or just like a lot of young people, it also creates like a meaningful activity to do as a family where cost isn't a barrier. Like the parent doesn't constantly have to say no, like no, you can't get this thing, like which can disincentivize even attending a public event because it sucks to have to say that over and over again. And so we just saw like a large uptick in like the same families coming to the market every single week. And then because they had, a little bit of extra funds to, 5, 10, 15, $5 adds up like pretty quickly. And so you can actually get a decent amount of extra fruits and vegetables. And then you just have more expendable income to also spend at the market, or you have more of your CalFresh and Market Match to spend at the market. And so it's been a really good program.
It seems like it'd be just super welcoming for everyone. And I
Yeah.
also noticed in the like if you wanted to say more about that, but I also noticed in the comments, like one of the questions Lauren had asked was about tabling at other places. And I noticed in the comments that Bridget Myers has done a lot of that. And Bridget, if you wanted to talk about that a little bit too, and how that's worked for your market, that might be helpful.
Yeah, I've done a lot of tabling. I don't do as much anymore just because my market is very big and busy. And luckily, thankfully, we've been open for a long time and I don't do a ton of in-person marketing like that anymore. But I really spent a lot of time going to neighborhood concerts in the park or, holiday parades or school events. If schools are having events, say, hey, do you mind if I come and pitch a table for my market? And then I give out little oranges or market bucks or things like that. Other events that are happening. There was like a book fair that went on for many years in our neighborhood where one of our markets was, and I would always have a table there. Everyone's selling books, and I'm just telling folks to come get fresh food at the market, every Thursday in that same neighborhood. And so I think the purpose that I kind of thought behind it was that people that are already going out to events, they're out and looking for fun things to do. They're also going to be interested in a farmer's market. So it's like our target market of folks. And yeah, just going to community events, it's kind of like adjacent. So I would kind of stick to events that were similar to a farmer's market, but maybe not food related. So I wasn't stepping on toes that way. But I found it to be really beneficial. And then I would see people that I had talked to at those events at the market, like the very next market, and they'd say, "Oh, hey, I saw you at this event." And yeah, I think it just builds that really strong community and word of mouth, I think, is the best marketing you can do. So putting a face to the market too, because I think folks don't understand that there's like someone that runs the market. And so I say, hey, I run the market. Like this is my market. I know everything about it. I can answer all your questions about it. And they like to kind of chat about that. So yeah, definitely encourage folks that are looking to increase foot traffic to get out to other events and table, and you can have a little giveaway or, even like a little postcard, like something cheap, but like a nice picture of your market. That's a postcard that you can give to folks. People just like to get something like that and it'll help them remember it, or like a fridge magnet or something. But yeah, definitely feel like that's a helpful way to get more foot traffic at your event, your farmer's market.
Yeah, thank you so much for that advice. I really appreciate it from everybody.
Yeah, thanks, Bridget, and thanks, Lauren and team, for the question. That was a great topic. We did some outreach events last year specifically focused on Spanish language communities to try to increase market attendance from our Spanish speaking communities. So that was pretty successful, like concentrated effort with a Spanish speaking staff member to go out into the community, meet people where they're at. So I think we're not running that program currently, but I still think it's a good idea and something that we should, when we have the right staff for the job, with the language capacity, get that going. So that's one other idea. I wanted to, if it's okay, switch topics a little bit. We had a question from Maria about starting a new market that was higher up in the chat. If folks want to scroll back, or Marisa, sorry. Marisa asked, starting and maintaining a new market in a region where most farmers sell at markets 100 miles away, because those markets are more established, the clientele have more disposable income, and the local food culture may not be as robust. I feel like that question speaks to a lot of our rural market operators. It's a great question. Starting a new market is always a challenge. I think, again, those partnerships, we tried to start a new market a couple of years ago, and we worked with the city very closely that wanted to host that market. And we relied on them for a lot of support, to communicate with the businesses, to let folks know what we were planning, to do the outreach and advertising to help cover the cost of the music, because it was an experiment that ended up not being the right fit for that community with the vendors we have available. But I think also being prepared to let yourself know that it's okay to pilot something, and it's okay to try something new. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but it will take time to know if it's working or not. We gave that market just 2 years, which really isn't very long, 2 seasons. But the attendance from farmers was just really low. And, we did a lot of surveying and whatnot. So I would start there by thinking of it as like a pilot, building your team of supporters and working on that list of vendors that are confirmed to attend, and kind of decide in advance how many vendors do you need to make this viable, and how much funding do you have for outreach and sponsorships. That's those are my first thoughts. Do other folks have thoughts on building a brand new market in a community that has ag vendors nearby but no market? And Marisa, welcome you to correct me if I'm mispronouncing your name, and also to speak more about that question if you're able to.
Yeah, Marissa.
Hi.
Yeah, I think those are good points that you just made. Just yeah, I mean, I've heard farmers mention there's no market in this region, and I think a lot of that has to do with just maybe just assumptions about the community. And so knowing that there is more like, I guess, of a guaranteed kind of market elsewhere, that is farther away, but it is, they're making more money in areas outside of our region and trying to meet the needs of, our local community, but then there's also this kind of like challenge as well. And that's not, true for all farmers. It's just, yeah, I think finding vendors who are commit, I guess that kind of values alignment where like our local community has expressed this need. Um, but being in kind of a more low income area, it is kind of a challenge to, you know, have that kind of stability or like um, normalcy. And then again, also tying in with like our food culture, our local food culture is, yeah, I think there's a lot of groundwork that also has to be done and just like creating a shift in like people's habits. So I'm just curious in hearing if people have experience in kind of contributing to that kind of shift in like local food culture, and then also, of course, with um, finding vendors who have that kind of values alignment and serving the local community.
I wish. Oh yeah, go ahead. Oh, you go ahead, Erin.
I was just going to say, Maritza, that it's a really heavy lift. But I would say that, trying to match the expectations of a community and the realities for for farmers and the other food makers that are going to be participating in your market is really important. And one of the things that we had to kind of learn the hard way in one of our smaller markets is that often with communities, the expectation is that you're going to have that market in a time that's convenient and good for them. And that usually means weekends. And I'm here to tell you that there are very few farmers that are going to be available on a weekend day. So but those midweek markets are really important to people's livelihoods. And they're a huge part of their being able to keep a consistent crew and to have income from various and sundry directions. So I would say that my best advice, I fought like the city of Pacifica for eons about they absolutely were not going to be interested in anything other than a Saturday morning or a Saturday afternoon market. And it was a couple years of convincing the community that that was a non-possibility in the San Francisco Bay Area, which had a huge, deep concentration of farmers markets already happening on Saturdays, not the least of which we ran a very successful market in Half Moon Bay, which is very, very agricultural, rural. It's very geographically isolated from the rest of the San Francisco Bay Area. But so we now do that market on a Wednesday afternoon and have a really, pretty good attendance of vendors and farmers. And it's grown to a point now after 15 years where it's a really competitive, great market for farmers and food makers that are coming from most of them from within our county, but also the ones that are coming from far away. So I would say that really doing your time and putting in the time and doing the due diligence about one, finding the right location, and two, finding community partners that are going to help you, because it's going to be an expensive, heavy lift to get it off the ground. We've been really fortunate to have developed over time a really powerful community promotional partnership program. We're not a nonprofit. Our markets are run by me as a farmer. We incorporated as a public benefit a while back, mostly because I'm a brat and I didn't want to have to deal with a board. Um, and so we work with a number of different businesses and community partners who don't, their sponsorship dollars are not donations to us. They come out of their promotions and advertising budget. And we promote and advertise for them at our market. We have like a section of folks called banner year guys who we just have a real, we don't accept just anyone, and I can talk about that with you offline later. We we're very careful to make sure our promotional partners are mission aligned with us. You know, like we're not going to be partnering with the, you know, with the gas station down the street or the gun shop. We're very careful about choosing who our promotional partners are, and then working with them so that they understand like the power that there is in being in front of 15 to 1800 people every Saturday, especially important recently for a lot of us who live in rural areas that no longer have local newspapers. So there's not places for people to advertise or to promote their events or to just let people know what's going on in the community. So we found that we have one called Matchmaker Partners, and these are folks that like we just ensure them that 100% of their dollars are going to be going towards helping us provide these different match programs for folks and helps put a little scaffolding under there. I think anybody who's on the call who um, participates in Market Match or wants to have EBT in their program, but or an unfunded Market Match program, having programs like that really help you manage the high cost of administering those programs, which are not covered entirely by even funded Market Match partnerships. So that'd be my a little bit more than 2 cents for you on that score, but like really looking at midweek markets, figuring out who in your community are those people who are looking to get a small food, a cottage food or a micro food business off the ground. Helping that really helps a lot, like maybe starting with your food makers. I know it's a little bit for some of us feels like putting the, the heart before the course kind of thing, but finding like the folks in your community who are making like those outstanding roti or the excellent empanada or the, getting a tamale cart or trying to get a little business together for their family. And like building out from there, getting, just a handful of farmers and a few food vendors that are going to also help you promote is helpful. It's a heavy lift, but it's not impossible. You just have to be really clear-eyed going in.
Thank you for bringing up that excellent topic. Does anyone who hasn't had a chance to share their voice? We're all experts here, so we'd love to hear from everybody in the room if folks have thoughts on that topic. And then we can move into another topic. Feel free
I'll
to come
just
off
chime
mute.
in. I'm Karen May
Yeah.
with the Napa Farmers Market. We here, this group, we understand all of the work that goes into running an established farmers market, and we make it look easy to the community. And that's why they're like, oh, let's start a farmers market. Let's just do it. They think it's easy, and it is extremely difficult, even in resourced areas, because the primary component of a farmer's market is farmers, and small farmers need to have a place in a venue where they are guaranteed that they can at least make money and not lose money. So it's challenging, and I think explaining that to others that don't understand the work that goes into it is complicated. And one of the examples is I think a lot of community members, customers say, "Oh, well, we should have an evening farmers market. People, I would shop if it was in the afternoon." No, you won't. I'm sorry. You want food and music and vibes. Like, stop kidding yourself. So I understand there are some established evening farmers markets, but they have the privilege of history of being that. It's really difficult to start a farmers market anywhere because small farmers are under such strain, and So we get to play. I have to learn how not to just shut people down with my eyes when they bring it up because I know too much. But it doesn't mean that it's impossible, but it does mean that it takes a tremendous amount of work. So yeah.
Um,
Awesome.
I,
Oh, go
I
ahead, Catherine.
I just wanted to add maybe one little tidbit. Like we, I'm just trying to think of ways like that you could maybe engage your local community before you kind of go on this like long trek to kind of maybe getting the market off the ground. Is there a way you could have like a meet and greet or a mixer for like and invite your ag producers and maybe folks in your community who would be community partners or things like that so people could meet each other and like garner excitement for an event like this. And I feel like when people meet others who are interested in the thing that their community needs, it helps people know it's more possible and just gets them a lot more excited and like willing to collaborate when there's like this invitation to participate. And it becomes a lot easier to convince folks to show up weekly. So I guess I just, invite you to think about what are those ways that you can lean into your network that you already have and then their networks that they have, because you know people who are interested in local food and they're going to know other people who are too. So just kind of like start where you're already at. Like who are the people you're already connected to and then like use those bridges too.
Awesome. So, all right, let's shift gears. Let's talk about some other topics. Feel free to keep putting topic ideas in the chat. I think this is going really well. This is really fun to engage with all of you. So, you're here. We want to hear your voice. We want to see your face if possible, and we want to know what you came to talk about. So keep putting your ideas in the chat.
Yeah.
This
I
is
saw
our,
there was
yeah, go ahead.
a comment from
Yeah.
Simba. Hi, Simba, about donations versus sponsorships. And this is what I have turned my role into now as the executive director of the Napa Farmers Market. So I think that there's a lot of potential, and it also can seem really overwhelming, especially for small organizations. So a few things. One is you need to understand what type of organization you're working for. If you're a 501(c)(3), that's great. You can take donations. Just make sure that your stuff is good to go with the California State Attorney General. There is some paperwork that has to go with that. And there are other forms of businesses and organizations that can take donations. Actually, hearing from you, Aaron, I didn't even think about that. But in terms of the messaging, so sponsorship versus donations from community. Um, they're both good and they both have their own struggles. So the donations from community members are really great because typically if you can convince them to give you money for whatever reason, there's really not anything else that you have to do with it except use the money as you said you were going to. So what that entails is explaining to people why you need money. And I think a lot of us understand that people think that we're all volunteer run, that we're funded by the government, that we're just like rolling in the dough. No, they don't understand that we have staff, we have volunteers, we work outside of market hours. So making the case and explaining where your funding does or does not come from. And if you're seeking the unrestricted funds, which can be used for market operations, those are typically a little bit more complicated of a sell just because a lot of times when people want to donate money, they want to have their heartstrings attached to it. And obviously, the market is something that is lovable, but something like if they're able to donate to a food access program or an education program, that is another a way that you can use donations if you're fundraising specifically for something like that. And what that can help you do is if you have more money for those programs that you offer, then you can direct your stall fees or other sources of income to cover operation costs. But we've done a really we've really tried to increase our customers' understanding of why the market does need just general support and operations. Our story is that yes, most of our income comes from the stall fees that we collect from vendors, but that does not cover all of our costs because we want to keep our costs as low as possible to our farmers and businesses so they can make the maximum profit. And and we do not take a portion of their sales because sometimes people think, oh, I support the farmers market every week. I spend all my money there. And we're like, that's amazing. We love that. Also, could you pitch in a little bit and maybe give us a tip, give us a little, a little thank you every now and then. So it is great. And what it is really about relationship building and storytelling with your repeat customers, because I think you'll find it actually is a very easy conversion because we have a very loyal customer base that shop at farmers markets every week. And so giving them the opportunity to understand that we do need donations to support our work is the first step. And then with sponsorships, that's also another great avenue. What you need to do though is make sure that you don't overpromise to your sponsors because it can get a little bit um, complicated if you say that you're going to be if you're going to be posting or like branding your stuff or giving them mentions, there's things that you want to offer to attract sponsors, but you also have to make sure that you're not burdening yourself with too much of the follow-up around that. It is a great opportunity. We do at certain levels offer sponsors booth space at the market for things like banks and private companies that align with our mission that would not normally be allowed into the market, and they pay a premium price to be there and to be co-branded. So it's important. It's again just like relationships, like start small with businesses you already have relationships with to bring them in and yeah, I think it's a great opportunity to help support and diversify funding for the markets because it's not free either. It's not easy and it's not free.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm
t-
gonna
Go
follow
ahead,
up.
Erin. Yeah, Erin's got some awesome sponsorship and donation programs and tons of experience in this realm.
Well, one of the things that's true is that, we don't charge admission and everyone thinks we do. It's like, it's not, it's absolutely true that I don't know of any farmers markets that, that are successful, that don't have some kind of a promotional program going on. But it takes time to build one and it's all like everything else, it's all about relationships, and it's all about creativity, and it's all about I think it was either Kara, I'm not sure who said it, but like a lot of times people don't necessarily know like that there are who's behind their markets and who's and how they're actually funded. It's often, I think, a real big surprise to people that we don't up here in most of Northern California doesn't charge farmers based on their sales. It's just a flat fee that they pay, whether they're making, a zillion dollars that day or not. But the promotional partnerships that we've developed over time have just been like, I think sorry, I'm gonna start over. What Kara May said about not overpromising and under-delivering is really just the key to the whole thing. And how you present your partnerships is also just hugely important. We decided we were going to have fun with it instead of operating in this kind of like space of we're always, scarcity and we never have enough. We just decided that we were going to have some fun and get creative with our language and get people like interested and engaged and make it clear that it's as big a benefit for them to be associated with us as it is for us to be associated with them. And so we have developed over time a number of different yeah, I can share a menu later, but it's like it just starts off. We have the first level is poster child. And by the way, with all of this, we don't put anybody else's logo on anything we do. It just muddies it up and it makes a mess. We don't do that. We don't promise it to anyone other than their logo is up on our website. And we thank them on the website. Everybody gets that. The Tangled Web and the poster child thing come into everybody's everything. We do a new poster every year, and we just go around the edges like the frame, and just the names of our sponsors are around the edges of our poster, but no logos, nothing else. And that and the mention on the website is it. We don't promise that we're going to mention them in our social media or any of that sort of thing, but we do over the course of the year anyhow. So we just like we do our little under promise, over deliver kind of thing on how often we promote them. But depending on the level of sponsorship, there is an awful lot of visibility for them. So like the one of the ones that we use is this thing called banner year, right? So for a year, they pay $1,750 to have their banner displayed somewhere in the market during the market season. And it goes from 1750 up, depending on the size of their banner and where they want it placed, right? So having those banners available to us so we can use them to block off weird little places where you don't want people falling over parking twanger thingies. Having them, I don't know, what do you call those things? Little curb things that stick out when you have parallel parking in your lot. Um, there's the banner years are just they've been really handy for us to have like on the backs of the tents that are when you're required by the health department to have tent backs that face a sidewalk. A lot of those banners are just like facing the sidewalk. We put them across the edges of the where we have the street closed and you have your A-frames. We tie them between the A-frames so that they're visible in there. And it's not like again, we're very careful about who our sponsors are, but every year we have about 8 banner year sponsors, which is a nice, healthy chunk of change. And it's the reason we're able to pay living wages and benefits to our workers. And that's like really important stuff. We have one, this is kind of fun. It's not going to work in every community, but we work with a restaurant down the street that on the coast is called Sam's Chowder House, and they have live music all the time and a chowder mobile and all this kind of stuff. And they sponsor our music. So basically, they give us $100 a week to be the music sponsor. So the music is actually being paid for by Sam's Chowder House, who has ASCAP, BMI, all of those things. They have the license. That's their booth. That's their license. We're not screwed anytime the ASCAP guys come around. It's been the bomb. So if there's anybody, if you guys have a restaurant or anywhere in your community that has those licenses to produce live music, that's just one of those things that's worked well for us. It's not going to work for everybody. Every community is different, but the ones that we have that are I think sort of universally attainable. We have the this market match, the matchmaker category, which is it's just working with a number of the different local nonprofit groups that want to really help us help them promote their nutrition assistance programs. And they all chip somewhere between $500 or so a season into this bucket. And our promise to them is that all of that money goes directly into supporting and putting the scaffolding under our marketing programs. We have another one that we work with. And if you do have a local paper or resource like that, we partnered with the Mid-Peninsula Open Space Trust as they're in the extra category. And so we are able to put a quarter page ad that is co-branded by us and this Open Space Trust that is all about regenerative ag lands preservation. So this ad is in our local, there's like banner ads in our local online newspaper because we lost our print newspaper several years ago. But they produce once a month a magazine and we get a quarter page ad for it. So it looks like our advertising with this little kind of line underneath it, that it's Mid-Peninsula helping us out with that. And there's a little bit extra on those folks, like the banner year folks and that sort of thing. Everything comes with one opportunity to table during the season. They pay a little bit more if they need to do more than that. But those are just like some of the ideas that we've come up with over time. They didn't show up overnight, but at this point, we pretty easily generate about $25,000 to $30,000 a year in sponsorship funds. And we're not a nonprofit. So all of those come out of people's promotions and advertising budgets. So we just make sure that we promote and advertise for them. And it's a relatively easy thing to do, given that there we are in the middle of their town on Saturdays. And we have, in a relatively lightly populated place like Half Moon Bay, pretty solid attendance now. So those things are being seen by people in their community that are actively engaged in participating in the community. And that's not a bad thing for anyone. And it's worked out really nicely for us. So before I came to this role, And during the first several years that I was getting our farmers market started, I was the executive director for our education foundation, and then subsequent to that for our human services division here. So like I'm really clear on that whole difference between nonprofits and not nonprofits and 501c3s and all that sort of stuff. So it's I'm babbling this off like it just came up with it overnight, but it's 25 years later and we got it finally figured out. And it takes a while, but there's some kind of great opportunities out there, and they're not always the obvious, put a logo on your poster.
I love that, Erin. Thank you for sharing. I might have the capacity to quickly share my screen to pop up two things here. Let me do this really quick. Before we go, we wanted to share my screen. So you'll see here a survey for farmers market operators. We just have a couple minutes left, but this is a survey that the California Alliance of Farmers Markets put together for market operators for you to share your market experience, specifically your experience working within the Certified Farmers Market program that provides the regulations and the laws that govern our farmers markets. So if you want to take out your phone before this session ends. I'm also while y'all are scanning this by hovering your camera at this QR code, if you know how to do that, we'll send this out afterwards to everyone who registered for this session. But before we run out of time, I just want to send like a big thank you to everyone. We are scheduled to end at 4:15, right? So we're just about there. So please do take this survey. This is helping inform the California Direct Marketing Program staff at CDFA and the Alliance what direction we need to see this program move in the future and what your highest needs are right now. So you can share this widely. This was created through the Alliance Steering Committee. Big thanks to Alan Moy, who did the hard work of actually creating the survey, but the questions were created through our Alliance Steering Committee. So hopefully folks have had a chance to scan this. And like I said, we'll send after, and then I'll just click ahead to another QR code where you can find a link to the California Alliance of Farmers Markets website where you can sign up for our newsletter. So once you're on the email list, then we can keep this conversation going. We met a lot of new people today in this session throughout the day. Shameless plug, we have our advocacy session at 4:45. So I hope you'll join us then as well. And big thanks to Catherine, Karamay, Erin, Bridget, everyone who shared today, all of you for being here. We really appreciate you. So I'll stop my screen share if folks are good here. Any parting thoughts?
I just noticed a note from Guy around the difference between nonprofit operators and farmers operated CSM. Guy, if you want to reach out to me, I'm happy to talk to you about that because I know a lot about that.
Awesome, Erin. Thank you. We'll send everyone's email addresses and everything in the email that we'll follow up where we'll send those QR codes as well. And we are out of time. So big thanks to everyone for being here. We appreciate you. Thank you, Guido and Kath, for putting on the conference today.
Thank you so much. It was great. We still have another workshop today, and you'll get the recording. I said that many times. That's all. Have a
Thank
good
you,
one.
Guido. Yeah, thanks for joining us today, everyone. Please do keep in touch, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.